Hello and welcome to my video on setting up DevKit PowerPC and GRRLIB for the Wii so we can make interesting programs and games. So first off, if you've not already done so, I recommend you check out my video on installing and setting up DevKit Pro, as you will need to have done that prior to going forward. So I'm going to cover doing this on Linux and Windows. So one thing that you should be aware of is that the MySys2 window is basically a shallow Linux environment. So most of the steps that you do there, in fact the stuff that you build using MySys, the code would work going between Windows and Linux. So some of the steps I kind of show will be the same. So what we'll do is I will download the GRRLIB and then I will transfer that across to Windows, and then we'll go through the step-by-step build process for GRRLIB, as GRRLIB is a DevKit PowerPC library, which that probably makes it more complicated to sort of deal with. So first off, also I'll assume that you've got the Dolphin emulator already installed. If not, you need to do that first, as you need a test environment, so that once you build your projects, at each sort of step you want to test it to make sure you've got no errors. Otherwise you'd be building it, copying it onto an SD card, creating the various files that you might need in addition to do that, then transferring it onto the actual Wii, only to find that you get an error there and then having to come back and do exactly the same again. So another thing to note as well is you'll need a jailbroken Wii, and you will also need to have the homebrew channel installed on there first. There are plenty of videos on YouTube for you to sort of see this, so I will not be covering that here because obviously it would make it such a long video otherwise. So yeah, let's get into it. I can come back to this here if need be. So it's first off, what we'll do is we'll download GRRLIB as a zip file, extract that, go through the build process of it, then we'll test one of the example projects to make sure it actually builds, run that in Dolphin, and then I'll set up Codeblocks in both Windows and Linux so that we can build Wii projects. And then at the end I'll give you a test game to muck around with. So let's get into it. So first off, let's download GRRLIB. So this is the site you want to navigate to, and then just go to releases here. Recommend you download the documentation and then download the zip file there. And then what we'll want to do is go through the installation. So the GRRLIB itself, it has some file dependencies, which it says here. Some of it will build itself, and then this is the command here you need to put into Windows. So I will not be showing that step, as I have not connected this onto the internet. So all I will be doing is I will be transferring those across. However, for you to do this, all you need to do is open, if I side by side it here. Now, so for you to download this, you'll need to open a MySys2 shell. So you can either, if you've not got a shortcut, then the way to do it is to open it here and then just copy and paste that in there, and then that should download the relevant libraries. And then it says here that depending on the operating system you got, depends whether you need to put DKP Pacman in. So for instance, in Linux here, open a window here and you'll see, as I'm in Linux Mint, we need to type DKP Pacman. And then what that command there does is it lists what libraries are available for us. So you can type it, if you type this in a MySys shell here, then you just need to type Pacman and then that will do exactly the same. So all this does is list the libraries here. So I won't be typing this in myself, as this will, I believe it will also update the rest of DevKit Pro, which I do not want to do, as it will break my Nintendo DS libraries. So anything with PowerPC on here was pretty much for the Wii or the GameCube. I believe there are some separate ones for just the Wii. Yeah, there's a few here. So once you've done all this, these are dependencies in place. So now what you need to do is navigate to where you downloaded stuff. So here's my zip and here's my documentation. So as I will be using a virtual machine, I need to transfer those files across now to Windows. So here's my zip file there, and there's my documentation there. So I'll now jump back to Windows a minute. So I recommend you create a folder, just call it Wii stuff or something, to put some stuff in here. So I have a few more files here as well. From the Dolphin site, the emulator that is, it tells you how you can mount virtual SD cards. That's what this program is for. I'll cover that in a different video. So for now that we've got our GRRLIB, we need to extract that, or unzip it, sorry. And then it has a README file in here, which basically mirrors what it said on the actual site. So we will follow that. So at this stage you should have downloaded the dependencies for it. now what we need to do is we need to copy our GRRLIB folder to C drive. So we've got that there, and then the next thing we need to do is make sure that, so I don't know whether you've already got the paths set up for the Wii or not. So let's make sure now that yours are set up. So we are going to the environment variables here, and then make sure that you have one for DevKit PPC, and this is the location where it should point to. This is a Linux style system variable. As the installer for GRRLIB will expect that. So now what we need to do is we need to navigate to the GRRLIB folder in MySys2, as we need to build this now. So go for cd/c/grrlib, and if you type ls, that will list it there. Now if you side by side these a moment, it tells you here how to build it. Where are we? Let's make sure we've got the right one here. Yeah, this is the one here we need. So take that one there. And then this should build everything if you've got DevKit PPC set up correctly, or rather set up on C drive, and you also have GRRLIB on C drive as well. So this should be hopefully what you've got now. So it's built everything, and it should have installed it into the correct locations for us as well. So we can double check that. So I'll assume again that you have DevKit Pro set on C drive as well. So if you go in here and then you go to Portalibs, go to PowerPC, PPC, and then in the bin folder, yours should look like this. In the include folder, okay, that's interesting. Doesn't look like it's actually okay, that doesn't look like it's put everything across there. Let's double check on here a minute what it says for the Windows install. Okay, we did that, and it didn't put everything across. I swear I did something different the other day when I did this. It does appear to have built everything though, so it's saying. So let's double check where it's actually built this. Okay, looks like it's done it separately. Okay. In that case, we need to build. Okay, so now what we need to do, we've built the GRRLIB. Now we need to build the PNGU library. So we need to navigate to the lib folder. And then we need to make clean all install again. And that should be us sorted now. That should have built the GRRLIB library. And we've also built the libpngu library as well. So now what we need to do is move those libraries into the correct location. So we'll do that from the Windows side. It's probably good that it's actually done it differently, to be honest. Better for it to be shown happening here for you to see rather than have to deal with it on your own here. So what we need to do now is we need to move some of these to the portlibs folders in PPC. So in the include folder here, in fact I don't think, do GRRLIB first. So I need to copy both of these, this folder here and the GRRLIB header there, and paste that in. And then go to the lib folder and then copy the libgrr.a, paste that in there. Then go to the libpngu one, do the same again. Right, that should be us all good to go now. So in the GRLibs folder here, and in fact go to the we don't really need anything in here now, or we shouldn't. So let's test that we can actually build something now. So go back to where you downloaded GRRLib, and then in there should be a folder called examples. If you copy that to C drive as well, now what we'll do is we'll find one that actually works fine. And this will be a test just to make sure that, that it's all set, ready to go. So we need to come out of the libs folder, come out of, now if we list there, you'll see there should be a folder called examples now. So we need to go in there and then list all the examples there. So the best one to go into, I think, to test will be the bitmaps fx folder. You should be able to just type make. And then if that happened, then you're all set up. If that hasn't happened, then you'll need to go back through some of the steps and make sure you followed it correctly. So now what you want to do is to, if you got that far, go to the examples folder now. In the bitmap FX, you should have two files. You'll have a doll file and an elf file. Both of these will run on the Dolphin emulator. The doll file is the one that you'll want to sort of use on your real Wii later on, which I'll show you how to do. So what we'll do now is we will quickly test that out on the Dolphin emulator, which I don't have set up on this Windows emulator because it would not work. So we'll copy that one across now. So open up your Dolphin emulator and navigate to where your app that you've just built is located, and then open that one, and then this should come up. If it does, then happy days, you've built your first project. So that step, which I did with Windows just now, is pretty much exactly what we need to do in Linux now. So I'll do exactly the same now for Linux. So you need to have installed the libraries that are required here. And then what you need to do is to go to where you downloaded GRRLIB. And then extract that. Now you need to copy the path and navigate to where that location is. And then, in fact, it's better if we go straight in there actually. So we'll do exactly the same. So go to your GRRLibs folder first. And then type make taxi GRRLib clean or install. We need to yeah, this was the issue I was getting, so you need to actually go into the GRRLib folder itself. So we'll do that. This is try that again. Yeah, we're got to go one layer in again. Sorry. Let's try that again. Yeah, just type make. This stuff here doesn't work. Then if that worked, you've got the GRRLIB A folder there. Now come up, do the same, go into the libs folder here. Into lib PNGU. That's because I've already built that. Do that again. There we go. Now we've got libpngu. So now what you want to do is navigate to where your DevKit Pro is installed. Now for you Windows users, you'll see that this is the actual Linux equivalent of what you just did here. You'll see that we have the OPT directory here and there's DevKit Pro. So we need to go in there and then open the portalibs as root. And then in PowerPC, in the libs folder here, copy this one across. Then in the GRRLibs folder, copy the GRRLib library across. Then in the includes folder here, copy the GRRLib folder and the header across. And then that should be all set up. And then you'll need to do the same sort of thing with the examples here. Oh yeah, you will also need to make sure that you have the path set up for DevKit PowerPC as well. So for me on Linux Mint, it's in .profile. For you, it could be in bash.profile or something else. In fact, this should have been the, if you've got errors just now, then it's because this was not set up. So the DevKit Pro path should point to DevKit PPC and then wherever you've got it installed. So now we can go to the examples folder, go to bitmapfx, and then we'll open another window terminal here so it's cleaner. Paste that in and then type make, and then if that all went fine, then you've got the bitmapfx.dol, which you can open up in Dolphin. So now that we've got both stages linked together, we will now go back to Windows and set up Codeblocks. So we're not going to need MySys2 window anymore, so type exit there. So go into Codeblocks. And then what we want to do is go into settings, compiler, and then you can just make a copy of that one. Then go into tool chains, and then you want to navigate to where you've installed DevKit Pro, DevKit PowerPC, and then to the bin folder there. And then we want to replace all of these. So one thing to note as well is you do not use min-gw32 make here. If you did my Windows install, then you'll see I recommend installing WinMake. That is the version to use for this, otherwise it will not build. So now what we need to do is replace all of these settings here for the PowerPC versions. So navigate to the bin folder again, and then we want the PowerPC EABI versions. So go for gcc.exe, and then g++.exe, and we can just copy that into there, and then replace that with the PowerPC AR.exe one. There we go. And then some search directories I recommend we add in. So go to DevKit Pro, go to PowerPC, PowerPC EABI, and then the include folder there. In fact, what we'll do here as well is we'll copy this path. And then we want the libogc, which is the GameCube and Wii includes here. And then next we need the portalibs DevKit Pro folder. So go to portalibs and then PowerPC and then include, and then select that and OK. And then that should be the compiler set up for the Wii. So now let's create a new project. So I will say here that this is exactly the same for Linux to set all of this up. Obviously it's not going to have .exe on the end, so I don't think there's any need for me to really go over these steps. So I recommend you create a folder now. Call it Wii Dev or whatever you like, and then just have that as like a dumping ground for all your Wii apps, and then call it whatever you like. I'm going to call mine T2, just test, and then select your compiler, and then finish that, and then go into projects and then properties, and then tick that this is a custom makefile project, and then OK that. Now what we'll do is we will navigate to where we just built that. So if you navigate to the folder where you also built the bitmap fx program, you'll see there's a make file in there as well. We'll copy that, and then on the other window here, go to your Wii dev stuff, copy the make file from the bitmap fx one across, drop that in there. Now go back to our project there. And then create a source file. In fact, don't do that yet. We need to mirror the folder structure like this. So I'll create a new folder in there and call it source. And then we'll do another one as well. Call it include. Now add a new file, source file. And then call it main. And then go into our project again, go to properties, then go to parser options, and then just add in our path there. And go back into there. We're going to build options this time. And then in the make commands here, under the release bit, delete target, and then the file, delete target again. You can copy the clean, and then go into the next window, paste that in, and then OK that. Now what we should be able to do now is include GRRLIB. And then what we need to do now is write our test program, which isn't really going to do a lot. So let's just build this a minute, test that it all works. In fact, we've not added our add them recursively in there, select OK, and then we'll add our make file here as well. And then if you add anything else in here, then obviously make sure that these match. So if you changed your source folder, it's not called source there, it will need to match this here. We don't have a data folder, so don't worry about that. And then let's just make sure this builds. Happy days. So this won't do anything at the moment, which is fine. So now what I'll do is I'll bung across some code that I already did just for doing a simple test. Oh yeah, I added a header in as well. Just so we have something kind of real world. Happy days, so we should have our main.h file now and our main So let's get rid of that from there. And then we'll add our includes from here. So I won't do anything more in the main file there for now. And then we'll add a few little things in here. So what GRRLIB allows us to do is it allows us to do loads of useful 2D and 3D coding. So we can plot pixels to the screen, draw lines, boxes, all sorts of good stuff. When you pair that in with the Wiimote, then you could actually have like a scribbling program or something, you know. So what I'll do is I'll copy across only the stuff that's actually of use to us here. So as we'll be using rectangles, we will create a rect structure. In fact, another thing we need from the main.h as well is we also need GC types. So what this header does here is it defines a load of useful type defines for us. I use these on everything now, as these are nice and brief. So we've got a rect structure there. Let's create a function to build rects for us. And then let's add another for creating colors for us as well. So we can create 32-bit colors here, just like we can on the desktop. So you'll see here that the format here is pretty much that RGBA. So the red byte is at the very end, or rather the leftmost position here, and we've got green, blue, and there's also an alpha channel as well, which we leave as 255 here. And then what we also want as well is we'll have a temporary variable to hold our Wii pad results as well. And then we'll create a few other simple bits and pieces here just to make a more interesting example. So we'll have a variable to hold a temporary color. We'll have a rectangle to represent a movable player rectangle. And then the color will be yellow, as we have two parts equal red and green here for 255. So you always need to call GRRLIB init, and then at the end GRRLIB exit, so that we can return to the Wii's main menu, or rather the Homebrew channel's main menu. And then if you're going to use the Wii pad, then you need to initialize it first with wpad init. So if you want to see what other functions are in there, look for where that's declared, and then that will open up the DevKit Pro wpad.h header file, and there you've got a list of all the various functions for the Wii pad that you can do. Not sure what all of those do, by the way. And then to read, we have to poll the Wii pad each update. And then one of the things I usually do is I usually all the results of these both together. So there's a separate one for if it was first pressed, which is buttons down, and then buttons held is exactly what it says on the tin. If you're holding buttons down for a period of time, then it returns them. So this is kind of like it returns like a bit mask of the various buttons, which are these. As you can see there, these are the various bit masks there. And then what we'll do there is we will create a color gradient on the background. So the screen on the Wii is 480 pixels high. So what we're doing here is we are creating a new color. So this will take the Y value there, and that's dividing it by 4. Let's just do that by 1 instead. And then we are creating a rectangle using GRRLIB rectangle command. So if you hover above that, it will tell you what it requires. So the values that it actually takes are actually floats, but it's fine passing ints. So you see here we have a start X and Y position, which is the top left of the rectangle, then a width and a height. So we'll pass the screen width, as the screen width on the Wii is 640, and then we'll pass a height for our rectangle of 4. It then requires a color value as a U32, and then a boolean to say whether to fill that rectangle or not. So we kind of need to do this each update, otherwise it will only draw once, as the GRRLIB render command I believe it's swapping like frame buffers in the background for us. So always remember at the end to call this as well, otherwise you'll be wondering, like I did for a while, why there's nothing actually happening. And then now what we'll do is we will have some commands to move around our player rectangle, which we defined here. So what we'll do is we'll put another value in as well, because that's a bit slower. Call it speed, and then let's say 3. Obviously you can put in what you want here. Probably also need to put this in there as well. As we've changed the speed, we want to make sure that our rectangle doesn't go outside of the screen. So we'll now use the rectangle command to draw our player's rectangle. And then we will add in another one here as well. So if you press the home button, then we will exit the program by breaking out of the while loop here. This will just break out of here, call GRRLIB exit, and then return us to the homebrew channel. So save that and build. What am I missing here? I forgot a comma. Build that again. There we go. So I'll save that. What you could do now as well is you could save that as a template. So save project as a template and then call it something meaningful, say 2025 Wii 2D template. Although there's nothing really major here set up, but it's a clean start with the make file and everything for the next project. Excuse me. So now what I need to do is well, first off we need to test this in Dolphin. And I also need to use that code demonstrate in Linux as well. So no point me typing it all out. So if you boot up Dolphin again, and then navigate to your project, now you should be presented with a green gradient background, and then you should be able to either use a controller on Dolphin to move this around, and then that just shows you how you can draw a background and how to use the D-pad on the Wiimote to move a rectangle around. Now you should be able to exit out of it with the home button, although I can't remember what I've actually defined that on the keyboard, so I won't be doing that. So now we'll set up. I'll show the Linux users how to set up so start up Codeblocks, and then go into settings, compiler. Again, you're going to copy that, and then go to toolchains, and then you want to go to wherever you installed DevKit Pro, to the bin folder there, and then we want to replace these here, GCC, G++, AR, into the PowerPC folder. In fact, no, sorry, it's in the DevKit PPC bin folder, and then GCC, and then G++, and copy and replace that one in there. That should now be AR, and then in your search directories under compiler, back to DevKit Pro, PowerPC, and then in the includes here, okay that, and then navigate back there again, except this time we are going into the libogc includes, and then just add the portalibs folder in there, and then create an empty project, and then create a Wii dev folder again, select your Wii compiler, then under projects, go to properties, put it as a makefile, then OK, then go into build options, make sure it's on default there, go to make command, and then just do exactly the same as I was doing in Windows just now. Now what we need to do is navigate to where you unzipped GRRLIB, go to the examples, and then go to the bitmap FX one there, and you want to copy that makefile, and then navigate to where you just created the app. There we go. And then add files recursively to find everything. So we've got a makefile in there, and then we want to do exactly the same as I did just in the Windows one. Create a source folder location, and an include folder location. And to keep this as brief as I can, what I'll do is I will copy the main stuff across here. And I'll add these in. And then as we're on Linux, we'll change the colors just so you can see that it's something slightly different. So we just built that one there, as you can see. So let's go to Dolphin and load that one up. There you go, and here we are with the same program running Dolphin under Linux. Okay, so that showed us how to quickly get up and running, and now hopefully those built for you. So let's do something a bit more advanced now. So I will close this one here. In fact, what we'll do is we'll save it as a template. Call it whatever you wish. Right, so now what I will show you is something a little more advanced. So this project which I will go into now, this one shows you how to load graphics. So in your source folder, there's another folder called graphics, and then in here I've included some files. So what's actually going to happen is these will be converted into byte arrays when we build this. So the make file for GRRLIB includes these lines at the bottom here, which is why we're using their make file and not the normal DevKit Pro one. It has these two lines in it here. So this line here will convert JPEG files into binary files, and then this line here will convert PNG files into binary files. That will happen when you build it for the first time. These files will be in the build directory. This is the same, this will be exactly the same for Windows as for Linux, so there is no reason for me to go back into Windows now and show you this exact same process. It's exactly the same. So when you build these files will be created here. There will be a header file which just says how large these files actually are. This is all automated. This won't be here until you've built it the first time. Now, to be able to include and load these images, you need to include them somewhere in your code. So for me, I've just included them in the main.h here. So you include them with the name and then an underscore. So for example, the background image there is bg_jpeg and then .h at the end. And then when you come to actually load these in using the GRRLIB load texture command, you can just refer to them as the name and the file name, separated by an underscore here. So I'll quickly go over some of these bits and pieces here. So there's a few more files in this one here. So I've got an includes header and source pair. So I've moved some stuff out. The color defines, these are some default defines here for colors using hexadecimal U32. And then we have an enumeration here for our character, what way they're facing. And then we have a few more useful structures here just to demo this little game. Have a simple timer, and then we have a structure to handle actors, and then a few useful functions. So we've got some functions here for initializing rectangles for us. There's one to center a rectangle over a point, and then there's another one for detecting rectangle collisions when they overlap. And then this one here, tile put, this is a wrapper over the top of a function called GRRLIB draw part. Now what this does is it draws a sub-rectangle of an image. So if I show off some of the graphics here, so this is a quick rebuild of one of the included GRRLIB font files, where I've just imported it into Inkscape and then give it a border and then added in an egg tile there. As you can see, this is a sprite sheet here with a bitmap font. So each of these tiles here are 32 by 36 pixels in size. And then if I open up our Homer character here, who's our player, we have a facing right and a facing left. So we would only want to draw the relevant part here. So you can create like a huge sort of animation sheet, and then using the GRRLIB draw part command, you can draw part of it. So if I hover over this, these are the parameters which are required here. So we have the starting location at the X and Y position here. Then we have the sub-rectangle region from the texture or image you wish to draw. And then we have a pointer here to a GRRLIB text image structure. And then there is a rotation value in degrees. And then there are two scale values for X and Y. So I'm just passing one across to these here, but anything greater than one will obviously scale it larger, and anything less than one will obviously shrink it. And then there is a shade, or rather a colour, to draw that image with. So these are some good additions to draw into the images that GRRLIB gives us here. So if I side by side these a moment here, one of the other things which I put in here as well is a little function called error trap. So when you're coding at any time, if you think that something's gone wrong, you can use the error trap function to help create like a breakpoint or a diagnosis point, so you can see how far a program is progressing up to before you throw that error. Obviously, if the program crashes on its own outside of your control, then obviously this is of no use. You obviously need to make sure you go either before the program crashes, or use this to throw an error, and then you basically just pass a colour here. GRRLIB will fill the screen with that colour and then be stuck in an end loop here. Very useful for diagnosing when things go wrong. Although probably better to put like a print statement and draw some text saying where, but that will be for another video later on. So just some useful structs and stuff. This is another useful one as well, vector2. So in our we'll now compare our main and main.h. So in our main.h here, this basically includes all of the image assets we'll be using. I have one other simple structure and some functions to handle that, just to wrap in a C string. Very useful to working with strings here, with just two functions in here. So we use the VA args list to help build up a string for us to draw later on. This allows being able to pass various arguments in here, and then this just dumps it into our string data here. So I'll create an enumeration here so we can know the location of images. We give them like an ID number to track them, and then I'll create a temporary I'll create like a structure around the GRRLIB text image. These are all the the parameters which are hidden in there. That's the raw data pointer there, and these are some things I should have looked at the other day. Actually, I was having the cakes initially were going to rotate, but I didn't look through here. So if you're going to draw rotated images, make sure you update some of these offsets in here. So there's some extra parameters in here which will be useful for handling images and textures. I didn't look at that when I built this. And then we've created two lists here, so we can easily work with these textures. So if you have more images, obviously make sure you change the enumeration here. So I created like an image frame list as well here, as we need to know the rectangles inside of each image. That's what this list is for here, of rectangles. So each individual image in theory could have its own list of frames. So I'll now, in fact what I'll do is I'll show you this actually, so you actually know what I'm talking about when I'm referring to the various stuff. So here you go, collect the cakes, get a score, fall at different speeds, nothing else to it, just a simple little program to demonstrate using the Wiimote GRRLIB and loading images in. Do with that what you wish. So the key parts I'll go over here are the initializing the graphics bit. And then I'll also explain the printing of the text there as well. So as from the previous video, before you kind of do anything with GRRLIB, In fact, I need to delete some of this stuff here as it's not of any real relevance to this video. Just make sure this builds. Happy days. So the key parts here. So in our main function here, in fact, I think this isn't needed as well. Yeah, that's not needed. Let's just double check. Fine, that's fine. Okay, so in our main, we initialize GRRLIB, then we initialize our graphics afterwards. So what this is doing here is we load in the various images. So we have a GRRLIB load texture JPEG and one for loading PNGs as well. And then what you're passing is the name of it, which should have been built with an underscore in there. So this isn't actually in quotations here. This is not the file name as such. These are kind of defined as arrays. What this refers to is this name here, which is in the header files which have been built. So you pass in byte array names basically. So we load in all these textures here. We basically create like an image pointer to our image list. I did set up some frames here. Like I said, it makes it easier to sort of work with images if you remember the sub frame areas. So for example, in our Homer frames here, you'll see the first rectangle 0, refers to the rectangle on the left, and then the second rectangle is the one facing right. And then I loaded all of the cakes in as their own images. Initially they were one strip, but I was trying to get the images rotating and then failed. And it's because of I didn't take into account that the GRRLIB texture image has additional parameters in that structure. As they were individual images, I obviously didn't need to record any frames. And then just as important as loading or initializing these, we have to also free them when we're done, which is what this one here does. So you see at the end here, we free everything before GRRLIB exit. So let me see another one in here which is useful. This command here. So what this one here does, so you see here, after we load the font set image, this command here allows us to specify the slices of that image, if you like. So if you open this one up, you see the parts that it actually takes. So this requires the GRRLIB texture, and you pass in the tile width and the tile height, and then the tile start. So in this case, what this is referring to, the tile start, is actually the ASCII start. So if I open this one up again, and you look at the letters, this starts at ASCII 32. So that's what these do here. This is the letter width and letter height of each letter, and that's the starting letter. Once you've set up the texture like this using GRRLIB init tile set, then you can use the GRRLIB printf commands here. To print out the text, or to use the normal C alias variables like %d for decimal, or an integer number. So nothing else to go over in here. It's pretty much just a build upon the last example. So hopefully that will allow you to build these apps. Now that's not the end here, because if you actually want to run this on a real Wii, then there's a few things you'll have to do first. So you will also need to have an SD card you can actually run this off of. So what you will need to do, wait, let's navigate to where I've actually built these. So you've got your doll file now. So what you need is to create another folder, and then copy your doll file into here, and then rename that to boot.doll. Now what you need is an XML file. Bear with me a moment while I get one from my old Windows programming folder. Let's have a look. Where are we? So it needs to be called this as well. And this XML folder here, this is what the homebrew channel player will display for your app. This is what it needs. So let's populate this stuff here. So we have our year. I believe this is month and day. And then call it whatever you will there. Obviously put in your own details there. And then here just in between the start and the end XML brackets here, just type in a description of what the game is. And then save that. Now what you would do is you would transfer this onto your SD card that you intend to plug into the Wii. So what I'll quickly do in a minute is I'll just grab my SD card from out of my Wii, connect it into the computer, and then show you where you need to put it. So here we go, here's my USB stick here, and then I have an apps folder here, and then you would just copy this over, into your apps folder there. So all this sort of stuff will make sense to you if you've gone through how to jailbreak your Wii and to install Homebrew. Now the methods I went over are obviously fine for small to possibly medium small programs. Once you've got large projects, you would need to use the file system to load stuff from the SD card. That will be for later videos where I'll go into depth there. So that's it for this video. Hopefully you've been able to get GRRLIB up and running, and you can now build 2D apps. So also make sure to go through the various examples as well. So you see in here there's loads of stuff here for you to have a muck around with and have a look at. Right, that's it for this video. I will leave links to the demo projects below, and I will catch you in the next video. Thanks for watching.